Yeah, there it is. Okay, okay, there we go. And that's working. Glorious. Where's the... Shouldn't there be a chat in YouTube as well? Not a...
There is a chat.
I don't... I do not see this. Oh yeah, Nutter. Okay. Block Nutter, right? Okay, perfect. That's unflattering. Hello. Thank you. Let's see. Nutter. There we are. What? Oh, yeah, there we go. This one. And you should be modded, Nutter. Dark Knight. Nice. Okay. I didn't expect to be here. Okay, well, that's gonna be very interesting trying to keep up with the chat. Ergo, I am probably not going to be able to. But still. Alright. Well, if it's something particularly interesting, yeah, I'll try. I don't really see the YouTube one though. I do not see the chat in YouTube. I don't know. How do you see it? How do you see that?
It's probably smooshed down because mine is the screen is a bit like short. It's at the bottom there.
What?
You show chat maybe? The show chat function?
What? No, I don't see anything like that. There should have been. Oh well. Is anyone even what? Well, we have no idea whether anyone is even going to be on the YouTube. Yeah, fair. Okay. And let's see. Yeah. 11 people watching, and I need to make some adjustments here. Give me a moment. I had so little time today. Yes, well, I mean, come on, I had no time. I had so little time.
This is our first stream.
Okay, so there we go, that's one, and now for bloody Facebook, why do you have to be like this? Why does Facebook have to be like this, everybody? Is that a question that can conceivably be answered? Okay. All right. And that should be that for this part of everything. First stream, yes, indeed. Okay. All right. Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the extremely professional debut stream for Lords of Nether. Well, the development streams anyway. Today we are going to be showing you the game in its current state, most importantly, and we're going to start before that with revealing a new Lord, at least the concept art for a new Netherlord, one of the playable characters. And after that, we're going to have a QA round from specifically our Discord channel. So, okay, Chris, I can hear myself in your share there.
I'm changing the headphones because I just realized that should be the case.
You do that. So we'll be doing a QA round from our Discord server. There is a channel specifically for that under stream questions in the community tab. So if you guys have any questions while we're streaming or during the round itself, feel free to drop them in there, and we will try to get to everything as best we can. So I believe most of audience as it stands right now, 20 people. I think that's about right for the beginning. We are going to first, oh god, am I going to do a spoil somewhere around here? Yeah, I'm probably going to do a spoil around here, but first let's begin with the Lord reveal. There we go. This is Caron. He will be the Lord of the Dead, the Necromancer Netherlord, who will particularly benefit your undead minions, obviously. Yes, indeed, spooky, scary skeleton. He will have a largely support role compared to some other roles that some other lords have, rather. Some of them prefer to be more hands-on in combat, others prefer different types of spellcasting, but Caron here is mostly focused on keeping his troops in combat, and while he himself isn't necessarily a powerhouse in damage, he can do a lot, he can cause a lot of trouble for the enemy just by being there. He is currently missing his weapon, and that will be added later on. Perhaps I'm going to stream some of the work that I do here, probably on my own channel, most likely. But yes, so we can talk about lore and stuff later on. That stuff is not important as it is, but yes, he is one of the 4 happy support making noises. Yeah, that's basically the idea. This specifically is the way he will look in his tier 2 outfit, gear rather. There's a tier before this that looks a bit more, not quite there, more ragged than this, if you can believe it. And there is a tier 3 that is basically going to make him look like the Death Pope. So yeah, that's what we're going for here. So yeah, I believe now we can do a little bit of showcase of the way the game is currently. So I'm going to go off to Steam. I'm so happy to see this. Every time I see this, it's so nice. It's on Steam now. All right. It's very official, isn't it? Yeah. All right. Well, so preface, obviously, work in development, so work in progress. So who knows what's going to be broken, but we're going to get to that in due course, to everything really. This is obviously the menu is going to be reworked. This is a very early prototype that we did. The core concept might remain the same, probably will remain the same of whichever lord you have played last appears here in their own throne room. So let's hit this one. Yes. Okay. Another is posting an invite to the Discord. So join us there if you want to drop questions for the QA round. So can everybody hear my system sound well? Just to be sure about that. Really? Oh. Yeah, well, that's also true, but this would help. Hold on. How about now?
You guys say I'm on a different category.
I can hit fine, like on the screen.
Music. Okay, there we are. Okay, people can hear now. Okay, so we start here with our throne room, which is in most cases the way you will begin any given map. This is known as a soulstone. These are pretty ancient artifacts that actually Caron was instrumental to creating. All lords have essentially bound their souls into these artifacts. Ergo, one cannot be fully destroyed without the other. However, the soulstone will take damage. Whenever the lord dies, the soulstone will revive the lord at this location. However, it will take damage proportionate to the health it is transferring to the lord, and eventually that will shatter it. It will also naturally shatter with external forces, and when it is shattered, if the lord dies, that's game over. A familiar voice? Okay.
Yeah, because Mordred said something.
That was no. I think that was referring to Benita. I think I'm not sure. Maybe not. Okay. So obviously weapon pointing the wrong way. So you can directly command units, even the Lord, especially the Lord, because the Lord represents you in the game world. So you are Mordred in this particular case. We have our map here, and we can see there is some gold up ahead, which we are probably going to need for our exploits. Ah yes, the mup. Beer should be quite happy about that. Oh yes, well thank you about that, Blast. Just wait, because full disclaimer here, most everything that you see right now was a placeholder that we were going to make for the demo. However, as we've pointed out in previous news posts, the plans for that have had to be sped up. So we will try and replace as much as possible before the Kickstarter comes around with what we initially intended to be the final art. We were going to make this final art post Kickstarter, and we wanted to make some quick and easy things for the Kickstarter to display what we're planning to do, roughly. But yeah, since we have to redo things now anyway, we decided we might as well do it final rather than waste our time on even more placeholders. Mordred here is a placeholder. We will show you something different later about the final asset. His animations are also a placeholder. He will likely carry his sword on his shoulder because this is going to start clipping into some parts of the terrain later on. But yeah, anyway. And thank you for the compliments. Yeah, okay, so we have currently removed the ability of Mordred to make workers, so I'm going to have to do this via cheats. And there we go with a few kobolds.
David, sorry, we have a question about if the soulstone will regenerate its health automatically over time.
No. The soulstone, once damage is taken, it will not regenerate. So you have to keep everything, like you have to safeguard it. Words. From enemies, and it's essentially a lives counter, more or less. You have, and the soulstone will gradually grow more powerful and gain more health reserve as you level up. So at the beginning it might be able to resurrect you once before it breaks, but at like the final mission of the game it might be able to do it 4 times, for example. This will probably we will have to factor how multiplayer works with that, because experience gain might be changed for the Lord, given that you don't have 30 maps to go through. You have to do everything in one. But yeah, the soulstone loses health permanently. Alright, so now that we have our kobolds, our workers, we press tab to go into dig mode and begin assigning terrain to be excavated. And we want this gold in our throne room, which, well, currently looks impressive, not that it should. This will eventually start out nearly empty, and the piles will gradually grow. This represents the full version of the piles when they have these gems, etc. Obviously, again, things will look different at the end, but this is a representation of that. We just don't have the assets for the smaller piles at the moment. Although I suppose just for a quick hack, Chris, we could make them just move up and down. That's going to look really dumb.
Yeah, I kind of want to do that. Or something.
Yeah,
just to have
anything
something. Yeah.
to visualize it, because right now it's just confusing.
I'm kind of reluctant to put in stuff that looks janky on purpose, but yeah, there might be some gameplay stuff there.
I think it's kind of important for... there we go. You bugged out, didn't you? Okay. Why can't I?
You're in dig mode.
Yeah, I was. These guys did not want to move. Okay. Yeah, so kobolds, or rather every unit that has autonomy, they have a timer. Once you give them an order, they will sit there for a little while, and once that timer has expired, they will go back to doing their own thing. Blast, could you put those sort of questions in the QA so that we can go over it more in a more focused way afterwards? Thank you. Okay, so these guys are digging out terrain. So as you can see, the terrain excavation and the claiming and everything, it is very similar to Dungeon Keeper. It is practically identical, but you know, it's a system that works, and we know exactly where we come from, and we are proud of it. So there is no current need to reinvent the wheel, as it were. Thank you very much. Alright, so let's make a few more to speed up the process, and let's make a space for the lair. Hey, yes, very much. Thank you, Nether. If I knew you were going to be this useful as a mod.
He's surprisingly useful.
Yes, indeed. It's almost like he might have moderated before. Okay. Yeah, you'll see some flickering in the terrain as things change. That's something we're going to work on later. Yeah. Chris, feel free to talk about anything that I mention that you might be more, equipped to talk about.
Sure, so far it sounds right.
Mm-hmm.
About right. If anything comes up, if I need to apologize for any bugs that happen here, I will.
Yes, Omrini, this game is created by us. Okay, so now we made a lair for our future denizens, minions, as it were, but not the yellow kind of minions. Those guys give me a headache. And here we have a portal that is currently claimed because reasons. Yeah, so you will be able to click the portal. Currently, we have a system where you manually have to allow creatures into the dungeon, but that will change somewhat later on. We have a few different systems planned for different types of minions. Okay, alright, so let's go back, because different creatures require different things in your dungeon in order to want to enter, and goblins are very simple. They only want somewhere to sleep. So let's begin with that, and you can rotate props as you place them, so you can make various different compositions here. As long as you don't block, there is going to be more feedback visually there later. Always has been a meme here. Okay, I don't know what that's referring to.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Your inside jokes. And I'm going to make some visual improvements right here, even though we can't have a door. So be it. All right, we're still not there with attracting. I do not know that meme blast. I don't.
Gotta mitigate that.
I don't quite remember, but they might
Zero?
also want to have a feast hall to Eden.
Oh yeah, they will. Okay, so we have a goblin that wants to join us, and we are going to let him do so. And the
The worker has come to watch.
yeah, well, I mean, hasn't everybody?
No, he lost interest.
Well.
Clicked along.
Okay, so the effects are obviously going to be different for every type of creature that is joining through the portal. This has a bit of feedback issues that we need to address later, because I don't like that it obscures the progress bar. We need to work on stuff like that. Oh, yeah, we missed it. Well, there he is.
It's basically an evil Stargate, yeah.
Yeah, it basically is. So, this particular goblin is quite notable because this is the first 2.0 asset. That is to say, he is the first final in-game asset, and he is jiggling real nice.
What's that?
I don't know. There was some error with the pathfinding here.
That's my bad.
Yeah, no worries. So this guy, at least the model of this guy, looks like he will in the final game, and the kobold also wants some screen time apparently. Yeah, okay, so the only thing about this goblin that isn't quite right just yet is the weapon, which they're going to probably be updated somewhere in the next couple of weeks. We'll see. The animations are not final animations as well. It's only the model for now. And Chris, what was the button again for tiering things to showcase?
It was either X or C or something else like that, or T, possibly. It's
nope.
been a while.
G, H, nope. Oh, I deleted them.
Just all of them. Z maybe?
No, it's not Z. Doing it live, folks. Doing it live. It's been a while.
Not sure, honestly. I don't know if we do have the tiering there for this build. I'm not sure which build you're using.
Well, that guy's gonna have to go. Oh, really? I can't delete him. Really?
That's F.
Nope, that does not work. That just deletes my workers. Great.
H.
Nope, nothing works. Nothing deletes him. Or maybe he just visually... No, Larry. Well, here's Larry, everybody.
Yeah, so that's your test man-at-arms.
Yeah.
He's not supposed to show up, but David incidentally clicked the button to show him up.
I think I broke something by adding him. I think because he's...
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
That's why you're not supposed to put these guys in there, because the combat's work in progress.
Chris, if I'm not supposed to put these guys in there, why do I have a button that can add them in there?
Because you haven't specified for me to not put that into the build yet.
Oh, okay. Well, we're going to have to restart this, and this plays again right now. Alright, we're going to try and do this a little bit more logically. I don't think the Warlock does that, right? I don't think the Warlock breaks it. Or does he? Maybe he does.
I cannot confirm nor deny these claims.
That's going to be
I want to see
great.
the Warlock anyways.
The Warlock should be fine though. It's
hope...
just anything to do with combat currently is,
yeah.
you know, it causes issues.
And the music stopped. So that's an issue that we have to address with the wise guys. The wise guys.
That's what we call the audio people.
Yeah.
It's because of reasons.
Because of reasons. Trust us, there are good reasons.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I need to So hello to all the new people. I see that we're up to 36 on Twitch. I have no idea how many on YouTube. Let me check. Oops, sorry about that. Can I even see that? Does it work? Yeah. Well, something around 8. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Zoom scaling is in the current build plan for release. How do I pronounce that? Anacarial. Can you put that question in the QA in our Discord if you would like to have it answered, and then we can ask you more directly what you mean. Sinka, yes, Deep Rock Galactic, absolutely, yeah. No, that is my jam. For rock and stone. That was terrible. Okay. Come on, faster. Oh,
was that the game where you can pet the
loot bugs? Yes, and some sociopaths just constantly destroy it. Oh yes, and the excavator. Yeah.
You can't pet the robots.
The man-at-arms memes have existed for eons. That is true. I still remember Sir Butchin.
Yeah, that's a deep lore.
How can one forget Sir Butchin?
No one can.
Woo, Z fighting. That's nice. That is lovely.
Yeah, we don't have combat, but we have Z fighting.
Yeah. Ooh, can you imagine like a fighting game that's just Z fighting? How
I
would that
have
work?
actually.
Oh, really?
I have fantasized about this.
Shouldn't need
It's called Z Fighter.
Sinka, are you the type of sociopath that murders loot bugs? Huh? The unit cap. The unit cap is currently locked at 32, but none of this is final. These are things that will be worked out in the testing and polish phase near the end, especially when we know what the words, God damn it. Well, the performance of the game is, because we need to know how many units can be on screen for people's machines to handle properly, and considering we're in tight underground areas for most of well, at least half of the game, you know. It's probably a good idea to not overdo it.
I do an estimation on how many units we did have on screen that one time.
Yeah, we have
one time where we gave the game to Beer Vampire and he
Oh,
just
God.
put all of the units in.
And for some reason, like
500 workers on
it
screen.
worked though. Like it was fine.
It worked with like close simulation and everything.
Yeah,
Just fine.
I was quite surprised.
In general, we're planning to. The idea in general is to have less overall units than you would have in most typical RTS games.
Yes.
Because there's more of a focus on your units. You have more of an investment in each individual one, and you have to train them and everything. So it's less units, and the combat will be more tactical than I guess normal RTS is. And we're leaning more into simulation elements for most things.
Chris, you done said it right.
Also, we have a question: can you convert heroes?
Yes, you can. You will. Well, you will be able to. Not at the present, but you will be able to. Okay, everybody. So
yes, but that might not always be the best idea because they might not get along.
Well,
with certain things that other things that you have.
Okay.
To answer this incredibly important question, I don't think Mordred has anyone that tastes the soulstone yet. I don't think anyone knows what it tastes like.
No, but probably strawberry or blood. You know, up to you. Maybe viscera. Who knows? You know, you make your own headcanon. I mean, it's strawberry, strawberry or bubblegum. It's not pink, okay?
I'm gonna have to go with raspberry, and that's canon now
You're
because
gonna
I've said it.
okay. You're gonna be like the rogue element in the room, huh? Okay, I see. All right. So yeah, some of you who are more keen-minded might notice that I'm basically building the same rooms that I was in the trailer. That is because I am a creature of habit. But yeah, let's get those goblins back, and I'm gonna.
I'm sorry, Blastoffer, it's not strawberry. It's raspberry.
Sorry,
yeah.
man. Sorry, he beat you on that one. Okay, R. Yeah, more of these fuckers. The sound is so weird. We need to figure out why these sounds are. They play the wrong sounds in the wrong layers. I don't understand. Like,
we haven't had a good audio pass with the audio guys for a long while. So
the wise guys, okay? The wise guys.
The wise guys, I'm sorry.
There we go. Alright, so here I'm going to slap something slightly different. And that... Oh, wait.
Yes, we do have a guy that does the voices. We actually have probably, I think there are several, yeah?
Well, me, one of them, but I don't think any of my stuff has been in the current... No.
You have a particularly deep-voiced individual that we can rely on for certain times.
Is that Martin?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he's very good at pretty much anything that has a deep voice to it.
So I say Chris and Benita, well, whoever you fight over it, we can probably start going over some of the QA stuff while we're showcasing this. So
sure, okay, we have a lot of questions about rum currently.
Oh my god.
And all right. One thing is,
I'm going to strangle him. I'm going to meet him one day under the
It's manageable. So one question is about roguelike elements.
Roguelike.
As in upgrades, you choose which are given randomly each game, other procedural aspects and such.
There is no random elements to the things you do. It is an RTS, and you need to control the way things are done. Perhaps if we make a survival mode, that might be part of it. But I would assume that would be more like modifiers that happen map-wise, which is actually something brilliant that Age of Darkness does to improve the formula of They Are Billions. So that might be an interesting idea there, but not roguelike elements in that sense. You, as in most other RTS games, you will be able to research, you will be able to upgrade certain things, and that is quite controlled.
Alright, so here's another question from Dark Knight. Will you need to keep your units happy when they're in your dungeon? And if so, what kind of madness will they get up to if you make them angry?
So that is a very deep question. Yes, you do need to maintain the general well-being and happiness of your creatures. If you do not, the way things are currently planned, let's hope we can execute on everything, but we should be able to. If you do not, most units have different reactions to things. Goblins, as they are currently on screen and not playing their animations because bugs. Goblins usually don't have any particularly visceral reaction, but they might start stealing from you when they are very, very unhappy. They're not the only unit that is going to be able to do that. Obviously, if you have converted thieves and then they're not happy, they might be a lot more deep-pocketed, let's say. Units like the Hag might start causing certain problems around your dungeon by cursing everything around them, which in turn makes them happy because they are very crotchety bitches. Vampires, a lot of different units have very different reactions.
We have an interesting question here from Dim Chris, which is any future plans for ghostly minions passing through walls?
Yes.
Which is a very interesting thing that you decided to ask. Yeah?
Oh yes, we do. There is a very specific thing that we want to do with ghosts. We want them to be relatively weak when it comes to actual combat, but they are more utility based. And when used in a specific way, they can be perhaps the best harassing unit of the entire game. I'm sure there will be ways that a beer vampire will manage to either make them even more annoying or to completely negate their work somehow. But there are also measures which you can take to kind of prevent and mitigate those problems. Yes, there is a reason that there are similarities to Dungeon Keeper. First of all, obviously we were inspired by it. This game wouldn't exist without Dungeon Keeper, and we're very happy to be making something in its image, in its wake rather. But we really wanted to kind of, how do I put this, carry over the spirit and the atmosphere that Dungeon Keeper managed to capture, because I'm just going to say it, Dungeon Keeper as a game is a flawed masterpiece. It has a lot of problems, and I am not out to recreate it. I want something that goes beyond. We all want something that that is more than Dungeon Keeper, but what we do want to capture is the feeling behind it, the feeling that it gave you. Combat Tether. I'm going to answer that question even though it's on YouTube, and then we can continue with the QA stuff. Currently, there are, let's say, 2 minions that are similar-ish, depending on what aspect of the of the mistress you are talking about. One of them, however, is not planned for the base game because, yeah, that's an extra unit that if we get to make DLC, we will put in. There is a female unit that is supposed to be both seductive and monstrous in the base game, and that is. Should I spoil it? Should I spoil it, guys? Should I say what it is? Chris?
It's our best unit.
I don't think anybody will be against spoilers. So.
It's a Gorgon. So half snake, half woman. And something that I very much want to do with this is to have no strictly human minions. The closest thing to a human that we're going to have is going to be the Warlock, and even the Warlock you can see is not really very human anymore. So, yeah, here we have a library. I'm still very proud of that carpet.
By the way, we have a question from Blast about what sort of abilities does the Lord have? Basic skills, spells, or more? And can you upgrade them? If so, how far crazy can you make your Lords? And what kind of aspects their abilities affect?
So,
like help in combat, buffs, and stuff like that.
The skill trees, etc., are still to be worked out. There is a general idea in which, a general direction in which we want to go. But each Lord will have equipment upgrades that you can do in specific missions when you arrive there, or maybe we'll have to figure out certain things because it also has to be done in multiplayer. So maybe we'll figure out a way to do it differently. We'll see. But yes, you can equip you can equip better gear as they level up. You will be able to unlock skills that they have that are both passive and active. They have combat skills, rather. While the utility spells, because we will eventually have a spell tab as well, the utility spells will mostly remain the same for the Lords, but there might be a few different changes here and there. We want to avoid giving the player access to things like lightning in Dungeon Keeper, for example, as a spell that you can just cast anywhere. We want to make that more of a combat thing that prevents the Lord from just completely spamming spells wherever they may be on the map. So essentially, if you do want to cast damaging spells, you have to have your Lord in some kind of vicinity or line of sight to what's happening. So for example, lightning will be able to cast lightning. So whoever is smart can probably figure that name out of my mumbling. For the rest of the question, there are some ideas moving around in my head about making specific things, specific researches that have to be unlocked in the skill tree, that have to be done by your minions in game, and maybe that will be something that the hags do, because there'll be more of a concoction type deal that augments your units in some way, shape, or form. What those abilities tend to do, though, they might buff units in a certain way. We have a lot to go through on that. We're still quite early on in the development of this stuff, and some gameplay stuff has not been completely worked out yet. So when we have more details about that, we can tell you. Let me catch up with the chat a little. Yes, multiplayer is indeed planned. Okay, you've answered that. Pyro? What are you talking about?
You're mumbling.
Oh! yes, Pyro will be able to cast... Yeah, okay, fine. Okay, I'm the Pyro, but Pyro will also be able to cast lightning. Cool.
We have a question from Mark with a K, or Kark.
Nutter?
Will there be a bigger map besides the mini-map in the bottom?
Yes, there will be. It's not currently in there, but it is planned to have like a full map, essentially, full screen map.
Alright. Oh, and Dimchris asked something if there'll be different types of subterranean environments to explore. I kind of answered a little bit, but maybe you want to go into more detail?
Very much. We do currently intend to do that. Obviously, what we intend is to have a campaign that goes through a lot of different locales in the world, some of which will drastically change the sort of hazards that you encounter. For example, in the deserts, you might find areas that perhaps you can't build over, or maybe they just collapse if you don't put some kind of support there. You might be able to find a lot more lava there. There may or may not be rivers of blood somewhere. We don't know at present. There will be in the north, for example, fields of ice instead of maybe water in certain cases. We have a lot of things planned, and the underworld is generally going to be quite wild. You will have to take it over. Like, you will actually have to fight for it, unlike in some other games that I could mention. And, well, that's obviously just the underworld to begin with. Then we have the overworld, but that's a whole different story.
We also had a question about zooming, like how far you'll be able to zoom in and out and control the camera. And all that.
The current settings are mostly going to remain as they are. So we will most likely not zoom too far out. We want to keep a relatively close perspective on things, because otherwise it's a dark subterranean environment and things might get quite lost. If we get a lot of feedback, or during the testing phase we see that we can do things a little bit differently, or if technology changes in the meantime, which it will somehow, we can adjust those things. Getting a question on YouTube from Valera: will there be an interesting and eventful company? I'm afraid I don't understand that question, Valera. If you could rephrase it.
Oh, holy shit! That's right. I completely forgot there was a YouTube chat, and I'm there too.
Oh, I
Sorry,
see some stuff from it. Let me check real quick if there are more things.
There is a
missing.
question about the Kickstarter.
And on YouTube. Ah, yes. Any more teases as to when the Kickstarter will go live? Combat Tether. Currently, we hope that the Kickstarter will go live somewhere maybe next April or May. That is to say, the beginning, the first quarter of 2022. We really hope we hit that deadline. We are working very hard, but time is limited and there have been a lot of delays. We will see what happens. We don't want to make any concrete promises as it stands. Either way, we are determined to make this thing happen, but if we are not prepared for Kickstarter, we don't want to damage our chances. Still, though, we are very much hoping that we can do that, and we're working heavily on making Kickstarter happen then, because I'm personally quite tired of working in a factory. Let's see, is there anything else? Any minions? Yeah, I think I'm kind of caught up on that.
Dark Knight asks, will there be other ways to get resources, and when resources in the map are gone, will that be it? Also, how easy will it be to destroy player AI or AI walls? Basically, the fortifications that we do.
Okay. One by one, getting resources in different ways other than just digging them out. Yes, numerous. Relatively numerous. You might be able to steal resources from enemy keepers with certain units that you may have converted, for example. You will be able to find certain, perhaps, caches of resources if you are clever with your exploration, diligent with it. There may be some other ways, such as when heroes invade, they might drop gold. We have a few other things planned, but I'm going to keep that to myself for now. But there are certain things that you will be able to do to get resources that may or may not be quite dastardly. Yes, Nutter, you will be able to loot the overworld. That is a huge part of what the overworld will be there for.
Both loot and pillage.
Yes. Okay, so, we have a little library here. That means somebody should be horny for it by now, but I'm afraid. I am so very afraid. I hope he doesn't break everything, though.
One way to find out. Did you save?
I can't save.
Mm.
The system isn't in yet.
Thought we did that.
No, Chris. Shout at Chris.
I can only do one thing at a time, I'm sure. We have a question about how tough the heroes will be, and if you have any idea what you'll be coming up against in any given night.
I also missed the second half of the question, but okay, let's answer that and then come back to the other thing. How tough the heroes are, and
will you know who you'll be fighting against more or less in the map before getting into the thing?
Well, heroes will first of all gradually scale throughout the campaign. And by the way, Chris, yes, he is broken and he breaks other
Can
things.
you try to get him to?
I cannot. But he broke the workers. Not the goblins, interestingly enough. They're working fine.
Right.
But,
they're probably scared. Possibly scared. Can you No, never mind. I was gonna suggest something, but probably never mind.
Okay.
Try to remove him with either F.
Nope, that does not remove him. That removes other stuff. So that removed my goblins. Yeah.
Well, he was working before, but currently we're in the middle of changes.
Rest in pieces. Yeah, well, we can't then
He had a
showcase...
really cool cloth physics and everything. Well, he
And-
still does, but
And he could research, and he can't research now.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Abe. But you have seen nothing yet, trust me. It will look so much better. Okay, questions about heroes. How tough will the heroes be? Right, the heroes will gradually scale throughout the campaign. And they may also scale depending on certain things that happen or that you do in the map itself. Because what we intend to have is an AI that kind of reacts to you in a certain sense and learns from the things that its own minions do and from the things that you do. In terms of whether you know who you will be fighting, I'm not sure I exactly understand that question. If you mean, do you know if you're fighting a different lord? Yes, because the lords act as bosses. The enemy lords act as bosses. Essentially, you pick one at the beginning of the game, and everyone you do not pick, you will have to face off against at some point in the campaign. Yeah.
So Mark
stabbing.
has a comment about how the walls are really thick and he wonders if he can have an open plan dungeon. Basically, Mark, I can answer this for you. If you don't want to have like earth walls like this, you can basically make a giant rectangle and put all of your dungeon there, and there'll be like subdividing walls that you can use. But those could be broken, so that might not be the best idea.
We don't do the solid subdividing walls anymore. We decided to take that out. We have
the barred ones.
Yes,
right?
we do have the
Yeah,
barred
that's
ones, and
cool.
we have barricades, but those should not be possible between different things. In general, though, that is going to be to the detriment of your dungeon. If you do not have walls, well, the system isn't there yet. If you do not have walls around your rooms, you will suffer a lot of different penalties, not least of all the fact that if an enemy comes around, your dungeon is just wide open. Yeah, there's very little that you're going to be able to do.
Mark wants to see the walls.
See the walls? He wants to
The barred
see...
walls.
Oh, the barred walls. Let me maybe slap one.
Well, don't put it in the middle of the thing, because
No,
then
I'm
nobody
not
will
gonna-
be able to get lunch.
Oh. Is... Okay. No? Nobody? No takers? Okay,
Mhm.
well...
Hmm.
Maybe there's a different button to remove him? Nope, nothing. Nope.
Shouldn't G be the shortcut?
Nothing
for-
works. I hit it. Whatever. Okay, let's try again so I can do the...
Well, Mark, you can ask Beer what they look like, because he had a build where that worked. We have also
Oh dear,
a question
what is
about veteran units. Will you be able to transfer them from previous games, or I think in Dimchris meant through the campaign? You can maybe talk a little bit about heroes, the hero units.
champions, yeah.
Champions. Sorry.
So, well, there's two sides to that. First of all, we will probably have like a boon. We call them like the Dungeon Keeper dungeon specials that might let you transfer creature to the next level. Something like that might be in the game. We haven't really planned it at the moment, but it will be a relatively small thing to do. However, yes, indeed, the more important thing is the champions. Currently, there is a plan to make champion units. We hope we manage to achieve that because they're also kind of a part of the campaign. So champions are essentially units that are elites in terms of Dungeon Keeper. They are elites. However, in the campaign, they maintain their level throughout the entire campaign. You will be able to access them well as soon as you build a dungeon that can accommodate them. but you can call them once you have unlocked the elites and you have made a dungeon that can accommodate them. You can call them in at any time, and they will have the experience that they have already gained. Although they will gain experience slower than their regular counterparts. So essentially, each champion is a fully dedicated character that represents the best or worst, if you would like to see it that way, of their given species. The goblin champion is a goblin by the name of Nash, and he has styled himself to be a bit of a goblin knight, if you would. He comes far more armored than any other goblin, and he is planned to dual wield a dagger and a machete, as the other goblins do. And he has a small part to play in the story. We will see, based on rights and rewrites, how certain things work. Oh, the Void. Okay. Yes, the walls. Come on. Do things. Yep.
Oh, and there was a question I missed about will there be traps and
Yes.
stuff?
Yes, this entire section is meant to be for that. Oh, no, oh. Well, now it's out there. Anyone can pause the stream. But, yes, there are defenses planned. Whether or not they will differ on different lords, we're not entirely sure about that yet, but there are a lot of different things on that end planned, and it's also planned to be a very, very in-depth and a complex system, not necessarily like in how to use it, but rather the things that you can make with it. There can be a lot of complexity the way it is currently planned. You will need to have triggers to traps, and you will have to you will have the ability to change certain things and so on. It's a complicated topic, but let's say, yeah, we plan to do things much more in depth, and heroes will also be able to react to the things that they learn along the way through your dungeon. So heroes that get caught a number of times might eventually start catching on that, hey, there are tripwires everywhere around this bloody dungeon. So yeah, stuff like that. Thanks, Jailbar. We do plan improvements all around, but just wait and see. This is this is mostly just placeholders at the present. Yeah. Mark, I don't know which Mark. These are the barred walls, at least in their placeholder look. We have a better look planned for them. It will come in time.
By the way, the bad Mark, the bad kind.
The bad Mark, the bad Mark. Oh. Oh.
Not as opposed to the Mark of Light and Justice.
The dark Mark. I like that. The dark Mark. I prefer that more than bad Mark. This suits better. Anything else that I'm missing?
Yeah, we have a question about is there any way to basically in multiplayer prevent rushes and stuff, or people digging in through the sides of your
Oh
dungeon?
yeah, that was part of also the how easy will it be. Oh, where's the marker? And here. What? Chris?
What? Sorry?
There are markers missing all over the place.
For digging?
No, for the walls, the fortified walls.
What do you mean markers?
Markers, man, they're missing all over the place. Like, look, these things.
Oh.
They're everywhere.
I don't know what kind of build you got.
Alright,
know what's
that's
going on.
yeah, great. Okay, cool.
We
But
need
yeah.
some of that bug spray.
Yeah, there's gonna be
Whoever
a
had the
polishing
bug
phase.
spray, please. Yeah, so we're planning on a big, massive polishing phase.
Yeah,
As
that's
soon as we have all of the features for the Kickstarter that we want in there, which is mostly combat.
yeah,
and,
and a bit of AI. Huh.
Yeah, but we have to apologize, at least I do, a little bit for the current state of the game. I hope you can
it's a
trust me when I
development,
say we had a lot more stable builds than this, but stuff is constantly churning and things are changing, and I didn't have a lot of time to make anything special for the stream, so this is like as work in progress as you can possibly.
Disclaimer:
yeah.
like we're all working on this part-time, essentially, between real jobs.
That's probably something that might be good to get into a little bit. But,
we're currently very limited in the time that we can put. We used to be less so, but hey, real world, creeps in, and you start needing money. So I'm currently working in a factory myself, in order to make ends meet, essentially. So time is a precious commodity. Which is basically one of the biggest reasons we're even going on Kickstarter, because we need to get some kind of funding rolling in to be able to do this full time. Everything that you see now, given the jank state and all, has been made part-time. The things that we can do when we focus, that's an entirely different story. But that time will come as well. So until then, we're patiently just trying to make everything as good as possible. The thing with our Kickstarter that we want to do is we don't want to give empty promises. We want to give a direct slice of the game as we are building it, as it is going to be in the end. It's going to be very limited, and for sure it's going to be a bit buggy. But just too many people go out there with promises and little else. We don't want to do this. We are dedicated, absolutely dedicated to making this thing happen, and to happen well, to be done well. As we intended to. We don't want to cut unnecessary corners. Obviously, we're going to be smart about the way we develop, but that's the gist of it all. Let's build a few things so it's not Bloody Baron over here. Not the Bloody Baron, that's a different character in the game.
Currently, we're not hiring because we do not have any money to do that with.
And we have a fairly strict vetting thing going on. Not that should discourage anybody, but...
we should totally register Mordred needs money for the gold pile.
Oh god, yeah, we need that. Yes, Mordred needs more gold for the pile. Yes. So we have this... you want to take it? Okay, go do it.
Alright, well, we had, for, this is a meme for the people that have been here for the longest time. We have a meme where, basically, we started putting Mordred just lying down in the gold pile in the first iterations where he had a model to do that with. Like, we just placed him there just to have him there. And since then, basically, the lore is that Mordred is incredibly greedy. But it kind of fits because he has a bit of a draconic motif going on.
He has a lot of a draconic motif, honestly.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's lore stuff.
Basically, anything to do with money is now Mordred's domain. And he would like some more money, so he can put it in the pile, so he can buy it.
Precisely. So that's going to be a redirection from our Kickstarter.
Did you read the question from Dimitris?
Yeah, currently I'm so Blast asks how much content / replayability are you planning for the game to have in the scale of 1 to 10?
11.
1 being Super Mario Bros and 10 being Skyrim. Yeah, 11 if we can. That might involve in the future doing some procedural stuff, but I don't want to get into any of that. Basically, before the game is done completely.
No, indeed. We're doing things in tiers of development. Essentially, we have separated tasks that need to be done for certain milestones, based on their priority level, and we'll see exactly how post-launch support goes, but we do plan to have quite a bit of content coming in. But
it has the potential to be very replayable.
So what we currently plan, obviously, is multiplayer. We plan the campaign, and the campaign alone has 4 different lords that you can play it with that change quite dramatically how exactly it is played. Maybe not necessarily on the super macro level, but perhaps it will also. Those are things that I cannot yet fully visualize. I have ideas about it, but a lot of it will come with more functionality actually being there. Because you will likely want to focus on different things with different lords. Like, for example, if you're playing Caron, you might want to focus on undead, and your dungeon might not even include a feast hall or whatnot. You might just be one giant crypt where you just constantly pump out the undead. And yeah, your playstyle might differ quite a lot from that of Mordred or Belial. So yeah, so we have that, and then we have the possible other game modes that I'm considering adding, such as an obviously a sandbox mode where you get to just build a dungeon and have some kind of challenges to overcome, but it is more of a chill thing where you can just do things at your own pace. You might have skirmish modes against the AI, obviously. If we have multiplayer, that makes sense. You will probably have something like a last stand / survival mode, where it's just an endless map and you try to fight ever increasing odds. Okay, catching up on chat a bit. Yeah, I want to say thank you, Sinka. That is really, it really means so much. You have no idea. Like, for everyone that has been, no matter how long you have been here, but especially the people who have stuck with us through the beginning, just our... Even
if you're a lurker.
Even if that,
I understand how that is.
Perfectly valid, yeah.
So yeah.
Just our deepest, sincerest thanks to everybody who is following us, and it's so motivating. You have no idea. So thank you everyone for being here today and for following us and for believing in us. We're just super happy to have you. What was I talking about? Ah, yeah, the modes, right. Yeah, so the survival mode is one thing. I've been toying with the idea of making a battle mode that it's kind of akin to like the Total War Warhammer multiplayer scenario, rather the battles, where you can literally just start on a specified map and just decide which units you want to take and face them off against, the enemy. Might be fun, but that's something I've just slightly played around with. So essentially, like, you would have like a squad or a small army or whatever, and you have to navigate the map and beat your enemy. All sorts of stuff like that. We might have special gimmicky modes that get unlocked, similar to unique maps that have like a gimmick, and that would be similar to how secret maps are in Dungeon Keeper, but they would be unlocked in a separate thing, not in a campaign. But again, none of this is like concrete promises. We just plan on a lot of these things, and we hope to introduce as much of it as possible.
Yeah, we had a question, or rather a statement earlier that people were worried, basically, if we're going for too many features and if we can do the thing at all. Basically, we want to do this as incrementally in the stages as possible. We want to have a base thing that's good enough, and when we feel like we're able to work on and put more advanced features in there, we will. It's pretty ambitious for what we have, like in terms of people power working on it. But so far, part of the reason why we want to even make a demo is to prove to ourselves that, yeah, we can indeed do it.
Not just to ourselves, but to everyone else.
Yeah, and to anyone, especially if they're gonna be trusting us with their money or attention or anything. So
precisely.
Hopefully, yeah, we hope that we can do everything that we want to do, and we'll try as much as we can.
Yeah,
and then no matter what happens, I can at least speak for myself. I'm gonna keep working on the game in any capacity that I can. But
I mean, for most of us, this game and by extension this company, I suppose more in the end the company, is our future. We do not intend to keep working in factories and other places. For me, this has been my goal since I was 14, I think. In fact, it's funny, this exact project is what started my entire development career. Not in its current state, obviously, but Dungeon Keeper was the game that made me go, I want to make games, because what I did is I learned that there was going to be no Dungeon Keeper 3, and I pouted really hard at that until I said, fine, I'll do it myself. So that's basically how we got here. A short skip and a jump away. Yeah, so we are very committed to this thing, as committed as you can probably be, which should be evidenced by the fact that we have been working on this part-time for several years through thick and thin, and through much of it we haven't even been able to really communicate with you guys, to anyone, what we're actually working on, because, you know, it was dark work, it was stuff that isn't exciting to show, like framework for everything that you see right now, and we had to throw away a bunch of things that didn't work, or were just placeholder mechanics, or who knows, you know. But we have worked through all of that, and we are still just as dedicated on making everything happen, if not more, because now we get to just show you guys. And again, as I said, the turnout and the support you've given us is just fantastic. More goblins. Anything else, Chris?
we have a quick question from Akriel, I think. Sorry. About if the lords or lord level units, how will their upgrades work and transition to skirmish and multiplayer?
Yeah, so that is something we still have to kind of figure out, because if we are doing things through specific missions in the campaign, for the Lord upgrades, we have to refactor that for multiplayer, or just generally refactor how it's done and work the story around that, which would be the smarter thing to do. It's very likely that it will be done through specific objects in your dungeon. You will have to create specific gear for them. And it will be tied to their level, so they will have to reach a certain level before they can have that gear upgrade. And when that gear upgrade comes, it will give them increased, and it gives everything. Like it's pretty much, whether it's a lord or whether it's just a general basic ass character or a champion, everything works the same in that gear. When it's armor, well, I don't think we make the separation anymore, but either way, upgrades in gear constitute a increase in damage and increased resistances to damage. So yeah, something that was very vulnerable to slashing damage might get a little less so as the game progresses.
We have some questions here from the Twitch chat that I think we might want to get into about,
Sure.
Will units hate each other? And so basically you might want to talk about unit relationships that we're planning.
Yeah, that is complicated as a question. Different units have different pet peeves. Of your own units, few will flat out hate each other, but there will be some. There are also some old school rivalries that we decided to carry over thematically from Dungeon Keeper, but I'm not going to speak about the units in question. There will be, for example, a very how do I put this? A very passionate rivalry between warlocks and wizards. Should you convert wizards into your dungeon? And warlocks will almost always be the insider of the incident. Yes, Sinka. Stuff like that, let's say. But we're going to try and be a little bit more, like, to give you a bit of a buffer to that, so it isn't quite as punishing. But we'll see how exactly we work on that. Anyway, wizards and warlocks hate each other. Specifically, warlocks hate wizards, and if they spend too long in the vicinity of wizards, they will flat out, indeed, start a wizarding duel. Warlocks will probably decidedly win that battle, but that is something to do with the lore of the game, because wizards, at least the ancestors of wizards, were kind of dicks to the ancestors of warlocks. They used to be the same order, but then some schism happened, and some of them became wizards and others were exiled and shunned and became warlocks, which kind of ties into the name warlock, because warlock means oathbreaker, and there was a oath in the mage order that you were not supposed to use magic for selfish and evil purposes. There, my computer's doing lag spikes. Not connected to the game, that's my own hardware. There's some kind of issue that I need to debug. But yeah.
Mark asks, can women do magic too?
Yes, they very much can, Mark. You would be the person who asks that question. Hags.
You know, Mark, women can do magic too. This isn't the Wheel of Time. Oh, actually, yeah. In the Wheel of Time, everybody can do magic, but some people are more crazier than others.
Yeah, you mentioned.
That doesn't count for this.
No, women can. Obviously, can. She's very much kind of the top tier spellcaster in the world.
Oh, Mumble, yeah.
Mumble.
Also
She can do magic a lot.
She can do a lot of magic. She is basically responsible for magic even being like a thing that humans do. But there are the hags, obviously, who are female. There are the gorgons, who are basically used to be her priestesses. Then there's actual priestesses, but they do more like a divine channeling type deal, which is not arcane. So there's a different thing going on. There's nothing in the hero roster currently that does any magic and is a woman. But that might come in future content. Some elements of that. We'll see. You got away with a blue eye. What?
I think there's some stuff in the chat that I
yeah. Andrew is very skirting the line there. Indeed. I wanted to address that concern about, indeed, as you mentioned, we work incrementally. The concern about having too many things. That is something that we are very much aware of. There is an ambition to this project. And what Chris said is true. We work incrementally. We work in a way that there are, as I mentioned earlier, steps to what we want to do. And those steps also at some point represent certain releases. There will be a point in time which what we have is enough to make a playable game, and if we decide that we need to launch at that point, we will launch at that point. We will be able to do so, and we might build up further on, and if we cannot, we will do so in a sequel. But the way we work currently is very much the base functionality and then different things layered on top of that based on priority. So there is no threat that this is not going to happen. It might not happen with the full ambition that we have planned, but we will work our little kobold asses off on making sure that it does without actually how do I put this, jeopardizing the project as a whole.
By the way, we had a question about if we're planning to bring in some stuff like Dungeon Keeper 2 or focus more on Dungeon Keeper 1 design. I think you can go in a little bit about basically how we think of differentiating from that and in what ways we're similar to Dungeon Keeper and what ways we're different, because that might be good for people to...
Okay, so let's
Together
see.
understand.
To start with the actual question itself, Dungeon Keeper 1 versus Dungeon Keeper 2. I'd say in terms of atmosphere, my god, the library is dark. In terms of atmosphere, we're trying to represent more Dungeon Keeper 1 type atmosphere. The sort of dark and gloomy thing, like there's a little bit of an oppressive thing, but it's your oppressive thing, obviously. You're the dark thing that goes bump in the night. So it won't be overlit, for example, as the sequel to Dungeon Keeper was. There are design elements to Dungeon Keeper 2 that are, I believe, general improvements over the original game. Such as, the ability to do this, which isn't a thing in Dungeon Keeper 1, and it pisses me to no end. But that's, I don't know, Mark? I haven't played Keeper FX recently, but maybe there's a bit of a solution to that already? I'm not really sure. There are some things that we carry over, like, for example, the mana that is used for utility spells. There are a few other things, but generally we wanted to go in our own direction with this thing. There are things that obviously inspired this project to begin with, and at this point they're so ingrained in what we've built that we are not going to change it. It would just take too much time and resources, and it would be needless at this point. But in terms of going in our own direction, there are many things that we do differently from Dungeon Keeper, and you would be seeing many of those on screen right now, such as the ability to directly command units, which will come with varying degrees of usefulness. There is an element there that will probably benefit people like Beer Vampire that can do micro on a higher level, obviously. But that's part of it being an RTS. There is the ability to build rooms in any way, shape, or form that you want, because you are the one who decides where the various props in them go, and can therefore make them more or less useful. This is something that we do for various reasons. Two most important reasons. One is space management, because that is always something that frustrated me to no end in Dungeon Keeper, that you can that you are forced to make square rooms and nothing else, and sometimes the map would really limit you, and I would go, well, I could do this if the game worked differently, but it doesn't. Either way, those are my frustrations, and they influence what we're doing here. The other reason being actual artistic expression, because I believe there are a lot of people who just love to just make a cool looking dungeon for their minions, and I don't think I'm wrong in that, because I've seen a lot of things from various games in this genre that confirm that. For example, Evil Genius, although there is something to be said that Evil Genius takes place in one location for most of the game, or two. But either or, we try to make things balanced enough for you not to have to spend your entire life building your dungeon every single mission. Other things that we differentiate from Dungeon Keeper is we plan to add an overworld, which is a layer that exists simultaneously to this, and you can travel seamlessly between. A lot like Dungeons 2 and 3. That was an idea that we had before those games came out, but obviously we work slower. And we also intend a much grander scale to the overworld than what Dungeons has done. and the way it works is going to be fairly different. Yeah, sorry. So guys, about what's going on in the chat currently. Combat is not currently in this build. We had a hacked together version of combat for a while that was just there to represent the basic idea to us mostly, but it was not the way combat was supposed to work. It was very simple and so on. Right now we are working on combat. That is the big update that should come somewhere in the next couple of weeks. We have made strides with what we intend to do with it. It is actually almost done. Well, done in its beginning stages. That we will add more complexity as time goes on. But it is a very modular system that should allow us to do everything that you saw basically in the trailer, as well as a lot more. Chris, if you want to talk about some of that, I'm sure people will like to hear.
Yeah, okay, I was a bit focused on the chat, so I didn't hear everything you said, but I heard the key phrase combat in there, so I guess I can talk a bit. Basically what we're going for, I think you put up in our website a kind of a chart of basically our inspirations for the game in general. One of those games is a really old game, Bungie's first game called Myth. And if you've played that game, or if you want to look up some examples of it, basically what we're going for with the combat is something a bit more tactical, a bit slower paced than most RTSs, and basically we have a theme of trying to make a simulation in the game in general. So there will be simulationist kind of aspects in most of the game, and the combat will be no different. So basically you can think a little bit of it in terms of The Sims, but in a dungeon keeper-ish type setting. For the combat, units will have more of a level of autonomy and kind of the ability to make decisions for themselves than in most RTS games. You will have the ability to tell them exactly what you want to do, but for the most part you can also just tell them basically go here and do whatever, and they will have various different behaviors and things that they can do from an AI perspective, and your role will be more in guiding them tactically to get the outcome that you want. You will also have complete control over what abilities, if any unit has a specific type of either magical or non-magical ability, you will be able to tell them exactly whether or not to use it automatically, or when to use it, on what to use it. So you will have control there. Also, the combat will be a bit more complicated than most RTS games. There will be, if you've seen the trailer for the game, we're basically trying to make that, but in the game. Well, the trailer was a bit like our vision for what we want the combat to be. There will be the concept of units can block each other, they can dodge, they can move around. It'll be a bit more dynamic. Kind of like a little bit like a multiplayer match, but slower, and they will just do their own thing, and you can guide them through it.
May I interrupt you?
Yes, Benita, you
We
can go.
do have a question on YouTube that maybe
Yes.
a little.
I
I remember in your trailers that the Dark Lords were more involved in the dungeon compared to the floating hand. Having an actual presence in the lair, can you elaborate on this role?
Yes, indeed. That is why I moved this guy around. This is Mordred, at least the placeholder model for Mordred, which soon we have to show some stuff about that. This is one of the playable lords that you can have. He's going to look a whole lot cooler real soon. This is Mop, indeed. So as for the lords, yes, they are literally physical entities that are in the dungeon. They determine the game over state. They are quite involved in certain aspects of the dungeon. They can fight directly and are quite good at it, scalingly so. But obviously, the threat also scales, so you need to pay attention to what's happening. That is, yes, indeed. So yeah, as for their involvement, etc. So physically in the dungeon, as I said, they have to be essentially destroyed permanently, so that you defeat your enemy or you lose the game. That happens by making sure that there is no more of this thing, the Soul Stone. It needs to be destroyed in order to permanently kill the Lord. However, if you kill the Lord numerous times, this thing loses health every time that it has to revive the Lord, and it will eventually shatter. It can also be destroyed for regular means, but if there is no Soul Stone, the next time the Lord dies, the player that Lord represents loses the game. So there are other things aside from combat that the Lord can do in the map. When it comes to the campaign, they will be able to perform specific actions that trigger events, etc. And more involved in the actual map, they can capture locations later on, because we currently have this automatically claimed, but later on, strategic locations like the portal or shrines and various other things will have to be captured by the Lord. That is to say, workers, unlike in Dungeon Keeper, cannot go up to a portal and just claim it. The Lord has to do that because they have to exert their power onto it, activate it in a sense, and then it will become yours. This has been done for several different reasons. One of them is obviously to make the Lord more involved in the actual gameplay, rather than for you to just have him sitting in the fucking throne room all day long, like a couch potato, or a throne potato, if you would. The other reason is to kind of adjust some balancing in potential multiplayer scenarios, because there is a thing with Dungeon Keeper where things can get really snowbally because of the fact that you need to train units, and once you lose those units, it becomes harder and harder to recover. It generally becomes harder and harder to recover from map losses. But if, for example, you are being attacked and the enemy player wants to take over staging points such as the portal, they will have to bring their Lord into the combat, which means they will be putting themselves in jeopardy. So they might think twice, or they might give you an opportunity to really strike a blow against them and turn combat around. In addition, it means that if there is a raiding party that comes in and just starts slaughtering your units and everything, you will not immediately just lose your portal and have to then waste time to reclaim it, etc. You will already have your portal. You will continue to have your portal unless the enemy has gotten their Netherlord there. And the process takes time. It's a bit of a ritual thing, so you will get notified and you will have time to react to it. But yeah, that means that if you start losing units, you will have this unless your enemy has taken specific action, which will normally delay them as well, and you can recover a bit faster from that sort of thing. The thrown potato, yeah, I'm proud of that one.
By the way, can you talk a bit about the unit kind of needs and morality systems? Because I'm getting some related questions to that, and we had a bit before that.
Needs and morality, yeah, okay. Omarini, I do see that comment. Yes, Chris will be specifically happy to hear that. He's a big fan of sacrifice. Yes, there is...
Somebody mentioned sacrifice? Hold on. Stop the stream.
Yeah, there is an element of that. I myself haven't played Sacrifice. I didn't manage to catch it on time, and I was too old by the time I learned about it. I have, even as a kid, seen things from it, and now I obviously know more about it. So there are elements that are similar to that. It wasn't by intention necessarily. A lot of things that have happened in this game weren't necessarily by intention, such as the fact that the hags just look like hag ravens. That was not the intention, but we organically arrived there. But yeah. So yeah, units and morality.
Or morale, sorry. Morality
Morale.
is a different thing.
Right.
Which we will have none of in the game, by the way. No morality.
Nope, none whatsoever. Well, I guess the heroes do, but not after a certain amount of convincing. In terms of morale, because it's the simpler question, morale represents, similar to how it does in the Total War series, it represents the unit's willingness to stay in combat. Morale is affected by a lot of different things. We have the systems in place that will eventually give the necessary data to the morale system. They are affected by stuff like the number of opponents, their strength, the number of allies in the direct vicinity, stuff like that. Basically, a unit will be able to determine, is this situation a situation that I want to be in? And if it determines that it is not, it will hightail it out of there. And goblins are particularly prone to that. They will have very low morale, but they have a bit of a thing about working in numbers, especially with their own kind, that kind of works to help with that.
They're cowardly, but they're brave in numbers.
Exactly. As for unit needs, well, there are needs that most units have in common. Obviously, happiness is something that everybody except the undead have. With the exclusion of vampires. Vampires do have happiness, and maybe some planned DLC units, we'll see. Essentially, unintelligent undead, you don't have to worry about making unhappy, because they can't be made unhappy. They're basically automatons. Let's say there are 3 factions, maybe 4 later, but we'll see, of units in the game. Well, planned to be in the game. There's the monsters, which goblins are part of. There are undead, and there are demons. And each faction shares similar needs. The undead do not need to feed, mostly do not need to be made happy. Like, vampires are exceptions to these rules. Monsters need to eat, they need to sleep, and usually they require something to do. Well, some of them require something to do. For example, warlocks would like you to have a well-stocked library, because they are bookworms, and even when they are not actively researching, they will go around your dungeon and read from whatever forbidden tomes you might have. If you don't supply them with that, they will get very huffy, and eventually your dungeon will get very puffy. I don't know if I should talk about the demons. But the demons have a similar need to feed, but it's a little different. And their feed need is satisfied in a slightly different way from a different source than everything else. There are just a lot of the different units will have, not all of them, but they will have little unique twists that they do here and there. For example, the hags are... How do I put this? Hags, they don't really give much of a shit, and they're very mean-spirited. They like to see others suffer. If a hag, for example, is upset, or sometimes just for the fuck of it, and is like just bored if you don't have anything for it to do, it might go around cursing your own units, which will make your other units unhappy over time. There are some ways to circumvent that. For example, if you have prisoners, they will focus on prisoners. But if you have priestesses in your dungeon, whether they are prisoners or converts, they will zero in on priestesses like bloodhounds. and make their days miserable, because they have a deep-seated hatred for them, because they are very fair and pure, and they're everything that the hags hate, essentially. What else do we have?
Also, this is an exception for the hags, but Grindylows are
Immune.
an exception
Yes.
from the
Grindylows
hags
are completely
shenanigans.
immune to, because they're kind of like friends in a sense. Grindylows and hags interact in their natural environments, and they have developed like a sort of bond, and hags kind of exclude them from their shenanigans. They have toilet monsters, I read somewhere, and you can slap them to fall in the muck pit. What?
Yeah, the chat kind of went into a direction there with the poops. So
I see. All right. Thank you for following, guys, to everyone. I can't keep up with everybody, but yeah, thank you. The chat got engaged. Send help. Okay, fine. Hold on. I'll try to get there. What even? What? Holy shit, guys! Literally and figuratively. Nothing that seems like a question in the chats here.
I think we covered most of them, but if somebody has a question, just spam it in any chat. Just go, just spam it.
I can ban everyone. No, please do not ban everyone, Nether. ban people that are actually committing crimes.
Chad has behaved very well.
What? Oh, yeah.
Chad has behaved very well.
Yeah, it has. Ooh, I'm gonna make some.
I'm very proud
I
of that.
read Goblin Bot somewhere, and
yeah, we have
all
a
the
question.
memes exist.
Will we by Yale Low? Will we be able Yale? Oh, I just got it. All right. Will we be able to micro units while they're in combat, or will they handle the fighting once they enter combat? So this, I guess, is a bit more for me, but David can also talk about it
if you want to.
Yeah. So basically, yes, you can.
Yes.
Once they're in combat, units will automatically engage each other and do all sorts of stuff. More than typical RTS games, but if you want, you can at any time go in and give specific commands, like specifically, I want you to move here, I want you to do this. There is a bit of a difference in that if you order somebody to move and they're engaged with somebody, they might move in a different, like they might still be engaged, kind of get some distance, but they'll generally try to get to where you want them to go. Microing specifically in terms of what you might think of in most RTS games like StarCraft or something, you could try to do that, but it's probably not going to be. They're not going to be as responsive as most types of other games that you might think usually. Although we'll try to get them as like. Basically, we'll try to make them respond as best we can. There will be a bit of a delay. They will still do a bit more animations and they'll go through a bit more things than usual. But yeah, we'll just try to kind of keep it balanced, and we'll try to make it feel good for you to control them. But yeah, in general, it's more tactics than relying on micro. But you will be able to have a lot of effect on the way the combat.
To put it simply, you act as a general, more or less. You point units in the general vicinity of something and say, destroy everything in that general direction. But when combat is going on, you can at any point just grab a warlock and tell him, hey, you cast a fireball there. And if he doesn't have the fireball on cooldown, or if you've made the fireball not auto cast, he will then proceed to cast that fireball as you told him. Essentially, you can at any point do more precision in the combat, but you should be able to rely on your units. They might not always be the smartest in how they handle things, especially in some cases, but they should be able to reasonably handle combat on their own. You are just an extra layer over that.
Yeah, and we had a question here that I think we forgot to answer.
can I-
It was about.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
I
Benito,
have
go.
there. I see there are 3 questions here, and I forgot to answer that part of the question for Anna Cariel. So let's start with that. The expected game speed from the dev point of view is slower than Dungeon Keeper 2. No, sorry, slower than Dungeon Keeper 1, because Dungeon Keeper 1 can be extremely fast. It's been a while since I played those 2 games, so it's hard for me to differentiate. So it's going to be faster than Dungeons 2, because that game is agonizingly slow, perhaps faster than 3 to an extent, but you know, there are problems here and there that, well, to me, stick out as problems in their design. I think War for the Oval is very fast-paced, so slower than that. We want something where you can take your time doing things, but obviously pacing to some extent is going to depend on whether you're playing multiplayer or single player, and not every mission is going to be the same. Generally, though, we want things to take a little longer, not frustrating amounts, but we want you to be able to take a breather now and again, you know, and not just constantly be under siege or have to build or whatever. Like there will be quiet moments in the game.
Benito wanted to say something. Sorry.
Yeah, we also have 2 very interesting questions on YouTube.
I still haven't answered the stopping the rushing part of that. Yeah, floor claiming is a little faster than DK2. That's they don't have to sit and jump on it for too long. They just go up and go bam, and there it is. So for stopping rushing, so that is one thing that I touched on a little bit with the way lords claim these strategic points. Yeah, exactly. Another is already talking about that. So, for example, if like your enemy is rushing you, first of all, lords themselves are fairly slow units, so you know you need to manage them a little bit or leave them exposed. But they are necessary to claim portals, for example. So if part of the rush is trying to get rid of your portals so you can't get units, the lord of the enemy is going to have to be there, in which case you could probably put them in danger if you can respond well. There's the fact that the lord as a thing exists, and they are very competent combatants to becoming outright devastating when they are at high levels. So you will really need to watch out for that, because the goal is to destroy this and kill this. And this brings back this a few times before it goes away, unless you destroy it through other means. Yeah, a few goblins will not be able to take this out. It is not a defenseless crystal. Like, if you have no lord here and it is just a crystal, a few goblins can do that, but otherwise no. And what that does is, if somebody does try and do that, then they've spent time and resources on those units that just died, and that puts you ahead of them. In general, I would say that this is not a game where you can really afford to sacrifice a lot of units, because they're more difficult to get and they require more time to train up to be more effective. There is a caveat to that, because that's part of the snowballing thing that is a problem. We have a system in mind that will determine the overall attractiveness and quality of your dungeon, which will determine the level of units that actually join your dungeon. So you up to level 5 can gain units that are higher rank if your dungeon is very, very appealing. Maybe we'll increase the level later on, but we have to balance that stuff out. So essentially, we have a system in mind where the snowballing is not going to become as devastating, because if your dungeon is fantastic and somebody just raided you and like killed all your units, or you lost them in a fight like in a fuck end of nowhere, you still have this attractive dungeon, and the new units that you gain will be higher level than you're getting complete newbies.
There is an interesting question in the YouTube chat.
Yeah, I think we
Camila,
should go over those indeed.
if you can read them, you can read them. If you want to, I can.
No, I think it's better if you guys read them. That creates a bit of a...
Okay. Well, Kamina asks if she basically asks about the lords. You mentioned there are different types of lords, but how different will they be, and what uses will they have?
Righto. So
Basically,
there are 4 lords planned for the base game. We don't know whether we will add any. It's not super likely, because they have very specific reasons for existing that are very tied to the lore, and they kind of cover a lot of the bases gameplay wise, the way they're designed. The 4 lords are Mordred, Belial, Caron, who we also have a picture of right here, and Mumble, who has not yet been revealed. Mordred, as you can plainly see by his design, and especially the... Let me actually pull that one up. The new design for Mordred being this. Mordred, as you can see, is very much your typical warlord. He is very focused on like straight up combat. What he will do in no reaction probably. Okay. What he will do in terms of combat itself is he is very much a frontline fighter. He goes in and he focuses on a few targets. Sometimes one, sometimes multiple, with different abilities and specific moves. He basically obliterates things in melee combat. He is very heavily armored as well, which means a lot of types of damage do not phase him very much, but some types of damage will actually do more harm to him than others, and more than they would normally. This ties into the resistance mechanics. We can have negative resistances essentially, which means weaknesses, and I want to kind of make some level of realism in this whole thing where armor stops swords, because that's how things work. But if you have something that does crushing damage, on the other hand, that is very not good for an armored creature. So yeah, Mordred has some combat abilities that are magical, because you can see his sword glows. He has some lore implications as to why those things are a thing. He is a one of the very few blood mages in the world, or I don't know if you can really classify him as a mage, because his powers are very instinctual and innate, and he very much just mostly uses them on melee combat. But okay, checking the chat a little bit. That's what he does in terms of combat. Frontline fighter, very difficult to take down with the wrong types of damage. But in terms of what he does for the dungeon, well, as I said, we haven't fully worked out everything about how those skills are going to function. But as a baseline, for example, he is going to be able to buff damage and resistances to certain types of damage for units. Like one example, he might buff specific types of units in some way, shape, or form. He might allow your defenses, like some of your defenses, to be a bit stronger. There are going to be like thematic skills and bonuses that each lord gives to your dungeon. Caron here, for example, plays very nice. So let's say Mordred is the baseline lord here, and he is kind of focused around the monster type of unit, but not exclusively. Things are more mixed than that. But let's say things that do melee combat are likely to be far more. How will I put? They're likely to receive more benefits from him. Whereas Caron here, as I explained earlier, he is much more of a support character. He is still dangerous when it comes to combat, and he is mostly a melee combatant, but he is a melee combatant / spellcaster. So, considering he is a lot squishier than Mordred, he will likely be more readily used in the backlines. Yeah, that's kind of what he does, Sinka, but he only revives specific dead minions. His final ability, not to spoil too many things, but his ultimate ability is... I don't know if anyone has ever played Dawn of War here. Probably the original Dawn of War. The Necron has a specific artifact. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. He has the Resurrection Orb artifact that when he slams that thing into the ground, then he resurrects Necrons around him. Caron does a similar thing with his staff. He resurrects specifically mindless undead that have been felled and not completely obliterated. It's not on full health, obviously, like half health or something along the lines, but that's kind of where the undead gameplay will get fairly interesting, because undead are a faction that has very distinct, like each individual unit has very distinct strengths and very distinct weaknesses. Whereas the others like kind of have more of a balance to them. Like a skeleton will be absolutely trashed by anything with a mace. Obviously, if it goes through the shield. Stuff like that. There are very specific weaknesses that the undead inherit. And Caron here can bring some of them back just like almost at the snap of a finger, but with that ultimate thing, which is on a long recharge, so you can't obviously spam it. But it does mean that even if you kind of manage to mulch through the undead fairly, like you might have some difficulty, but still mulch through them, a very powerful Caron can just go bam. And now you have a bit more to deal with on your plate. As for healing undead minions, that might not be his domain. But Caron is an interesting character because his skills can bleed over into other units as well. He might be able to give passive regeneration to certain or all units, but we will see how that works. There's lore implications, lore reasons for why that's a potential thing. There might be a skill that makes downed, like bleeding out, take longer before the unit actually dies. There are going to be various things that he does. The way he heals undead units might happen with his first skill, which is going to be Life Leech, which is exactly what this thing here is. He might be able to essentially act as a conduit, so he can steal life from basically an area, so he can hit multiple units with that. And if he himself is at his maximum health, then or if he isn't, but if it heals him to maximum health, whatever excess numerical value of health is acquired from that spell will then be spread out to the undead minions. Stuff like that.
We also have question from the YouTube thing. Basically, what is your opinion on War for the Overworld?
Well, we're very good friends with Bright Rock, and I don't know if I'm even allowed to say that, but our 3D modeler has experience with Bedrock, let's say that, to a certain degree. What I think about the game, like, first of all, my opinions of them as a company are just stellar. What they have done is amazing to me because it's also very similar to what we want to do in terms of not just the game that they made, but they managed to make a successful company no matter what was thrown their way. And there were a lot of things thrown their way that I might know more than some others. And they persevered through all of that, and they made a game that has a very strong audience, and it catapulted their company into success, and they continue to work on their dreams and make new games, which is exactly what we want to do. So like, I admire them for that, and very much admire them for the fact that they stuck through the rough launch that they had with War for the Overworld and improved the game and kept building and building and building. It just really, my heart goes out to them. I know the difficulties to some extent. I don't know all of the difficulties because we haven't gone through everything that they have yet. But as for War for the Overworld itself, it's not my cup of tea. If it was everything that I wanted out of this genre, I wouldn't be making Lords of Nether because it's done. War for the Overworld just didn't quite do it for me. The pacing was not what I was looking for, as it is a more fast-paced game. I don't know what to really say in terms of that. I like the game, and I intend to replay it soon. I haven't played much of the DLC content. I hear it comes more into its own in Heart of Gold, and that is something I want to experience myself, because I do think that they have good ideas. You just want to see how they come into their own, because I believe one problem that they did have with the original campaign is that they weren't quite certain where exactly they wanted to take their game, or rather weren't sure of where their strengths and weaknesses lie in their design. So yeah, I think some levels suffered more than others, I suppose, but then again, I'm of the unpopular opinion that the crypt level is fucking awesome, where you get to control like necromancers and like make an army of the undead. The level design, I could take or leave, but the concept behind the level was really good. And it's also totally my jam because I'm an undead fanboy. So when I hit that, I was like, for the rest of the game, really, I just don't think it does it for me. The same way as dungeons on a lot of levels doesn't do it for me. There are reasons as to why and why not, but that doesn't mean that it's a bad game. In both cases, I think there's just audiences for different things, and that's perfectly valid. I really can't think of one particular thing that really stands out right now. Mostly the pacing. I always looked for a bit more of a player agency, and it was very close to Dungeon Keeper 2 in a certain sense, and they evolved the formula quite a lot. There was a conversation I had with one of them that said something along the lines of there's a difference between what we make and what they make, in that War for the Overworld is more an evolution of the Dungeon Keeper formula, while what we're trying is a revolution. At least that's how I remember the conversation. It was quite a while ago. But he was quite right in what he said, because we want to do a departure from what Dungeon Keeper was, but maintained within the same genre. While War of the Overworld was not a very distant departure from Dungeon Keeper, and specifically Dungeon Keeper 2, it built more on top of it. Which there's nothing wrong with, but definitely a good formula for a game, and I'm happy that that aspect is also being explored. I think there is definitely room for more games of this genre out there right now, and I think everybody that is watching us right now thinks the same. But yeah, it's a good game. It just doesn't quite do it for me. That's what I would say. I know there's just a lot to unpack.
By the way, we have been getting some ambient kind of question. Blast asks currently. Basically, we talked a little bit. It was more me responding to messages, but can you say something about either the map creator, if we're planning to do a custom Lord creator, or anything else that might be considered player customization, basically?
So in terms of custom Lord creator, no. No such thing is going to happen. The assets required for that would be astronomical. There is specific reasons as to why the Lords exist, and we're not going to mess with that. No. But in terms of player customization, there will be a map editor. What we hope to be able to do is to give you almost the exact tools that we work with to make our levels, if not the exact tools that we use, because we want players to be able to build their own levels or to make completely different like campaigns and modes and stuff like that. They're user generated content. I think the way we're building this game and how modular a lot of the things are permitted to become a lot of different things. Obviously, doing that requires a lot of time, but we've often joked around about the fact that you could make like a first-person like hack and slash dungeon exploration game out of it if you put it in the time. You could make like a turn-based game out of it. You could make a lot of different things, because everything that we do is modular, and there's a lot of systems that interact in interesting ways that allow that. So yeah, I would say that's the highest level that is currently planned for player customization. You will be able to make your own maps, and likely through Steam or whatever else, we will be able to integrate them directly into the game. So yeah, we'll see exactly how that works. I mean, I grew up with the freaking Chris, what was it? The Neverwinter Nights, the Nova, or what was it?
Aurora, maybe?
Aurora, yeah, the Aurora maker, like game maker thing for Neverwinter Nights.
That's what the name
I think
was.
it was, yeah. And also, Stronghold and Age of Empires and stuff like that, all of which allowed you to make maps. And I had so much fun doing that. And in some cases, I wished, also Dungeon Keeper, in some cases, I wished that it would be a little more powerful because I had a lot of my own ideas. So I would not want to deprive players of the ability to do that with ours. Obviously, this does mean that there will be more time that has to go into developing aspects of the editor to make it more user-friendly. So developing specific UI for it and some functionality that makes things easier to read and so on. Let's see. Is there anything else aside from this question that I see? Yeah, sorry.
Well, you can read the Twitch chat, I think that's
so from Blast, we've got, from Eldridge Blaze, we've got, does the map editor include modifiers that are preset or your own modifiers that you adjust? Modifiers in what sense do you mean?
I think he's talking about game balance stuff. for like the stats for units and things like that. But
that might be a lot of work to do, but it may be possible. We do have the systems that allow us to do that on our end. You're talking about making custom units and stuff, probably. It's not a subject I'm necessarily super happy about, but you know, because I've seen the mods on Skyrim Nexus, but we will see. That's not something I can answer with certainty at this point in time. I talk about boons. You will be able to create your own boons. You will also, like, in case we make survival maps and stuff that might have like actual modifiers, like, I don't know, your units can see less or more or whatever the fuck. That's like a global buff or debuff depending on the situation. If we do that, then yes, that will probably be something that we can put into the editor as well. I saw, right, Koro sauce. Are randomly generated maps a possibility too? Not at present, and we're not going to put any particular like stress on that, because it is a lot of work on its own. There has to be an AI that determines systems here and there. Maybe later on, if we have the time and budget for it. That's what everything comes down to, folks. Time and budget. If it's planned,
it will not be part of the main launch of the game. Most likely, if we ever get to it, it'll be something to do with an update or an expansion of some sort.
If we ever get to it. There's no promises on that end because it's not currently a focus, but if we do see that there is a need for it, we might do it down the line somewhere.
I mean, I would be interested in working on that because that sounds fun, but there's so much stuff to do that...
Exactly. Yeah, okay. Anything else that we got? Because I think we've been going on for 2 hours now.
Oh boy, the plan was for 1, right?
No, the plan was for 2.
Alright.
I anticipated.
I had not been reading anything about the plan, by the way. So.
Oh yeah, well that's professional.
Incredibly.
Might be another question coming.
This game is a keep. Well. Thank you. Yeah, I want to build something pretty.
Is there anything you can tell us about the faction of good?
Well, why can't I do this anymore? Hold on, what is this? Okay. Faction. Chris, what is happening? Oh, I can't build.
What are you trying to do?
I can't build them over water anymore.
Oh yeah, that's probably something we...
Yeah, with the system that we changed some things. Yeah, okay. Sorry, what was the question again? I phased.
The good faction.
Oh yeah, the heroes, right. There's a whole lot of things that I can tell you, but I wouldn't know where to start. That's a very
broad strokes and who they are is part of the question.
The broad strokes is most of them, the majority of them. We'll get to the possession thing. The majority of the heroes, quote unquote, that you will face are part of the kingdom of Osteria, which is a very, very, very old kingdom that has its roots basically in you. Lore-wise, you were banished by the person that founded that kingdom, or defeated, or whatever you want to call it. So you're coming back several hundred years later, and you are hella mad. So most of those forces will be from Osteria, sorry. Some of them, however, will be their own independent factions. more or less independent. Osteria, fucking Christ, I keep doing that because they changed it. Osteria is kind of a sovereign kingdom because of the way they ended the war with you and the way you ended everything else before the end of that war. They are the superpower in the world. They have become an empire, and they control most of the world either directly or through vassalage or alliances. And it is not... it is more nuanced than them just being the good guys and the heroes as these things are in real life, because we don't want to just make a purely stereotypical story here. There's some complications here and there. There are other factions, such as the Eastern Kingdoms, which are sort of like Scheherazada's 1001 Nights type of inspired faction, like Arabic mythology and concepts. And they are, I wouldn't call them a vassal, but of a sense, they're not even an ally. It's very complicated. Their relationship is very love-hate. But they were the only power in the world that managed to resist the expansion of Osteria, because they were relatively untouched by the war, so they still had their resources to combat their expansion, and that war protracted for so long that that Osteria resorted to underhanded means, which results in the current system of government, if you can even call it a system of government. But yeah, I'm not really going to go too deep into that. Yeah, there are a number of different heroes with different flavors and origins. Dwarfs are part of the setting. Elves are extinct. You made sure of that. Dwarves exist in the north, but they are allied with the Empire of Osteria. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to reveal too much about them. Pop back in the 3-hour mark. Yeah, okay. I'm not gonna, because again, this is a really broad question. That there are heroes that fulfill different functions mechanically. They're foils for your plans. The way the heroes kind of work is there's like an AI that kind of observes and learns from various different parties that are sent into your dungeon with different goals, and the AI will respond to things that happen to those parties or that those parties uncover differently. So you won't necessarily be playing the exact same game twice unless you're really trying. But yeah, we'll get to that. Possession, right, possession. That's a bit of a sticky week, isn't it? Yes, indeed. Possession is a complicated subject. We want to do it. It will... If we manage to do it, it will function in a very specific way in which it essentially disables your lord temporarily, because you are literally casting your consciousness into another unit. So he will be channeling this thing somewhere on the map, and if you aren't careful, you can get KO'd. But that's a plan for now. So the thing with possession is it will require quite a bit of work. The reason Dungeon Keeper even had possession is because it was built on the Magic Carpet engine, which was initially a first-person game. So it was required of the game to have a first-person mode of some sort, and then they built everything else around it. We have to go out of our way to more or less build a completely different game for possession, which, if we want to do right, is going to take quite a lot of resources, and we don't like to half-ass things. So we might have possession if, again, what it comes down to is we have the budget and the time. But it is one of the higher things on the chopping block if we do not.
We don't, someone's gonna want it in.
Somehow, eventually, some way.
I see Kamina is very happy about the absence of elves. So why is it never trust that?
Concerningly happy. We have a question from Blast that's pretty interesting about early access. Will there be one?
Right, early access. God, I probably should have given more expected time to this stream, because this is the first stream and people are just gonna fall in with every question possible. Right, the early access. It's again a question of ifs.
By the way, can you look at something more like in the map and like stop, like just zooming past it?
Sorry, like what would you say? What would you say?
Just look at rooms. I don't know. I like the kitchen maybe.
Play in slow motion. People have never seen this.
Yeah, just look at stuff. Just look at stuff from.
Right. Sorry. Right. So, early access is a bit of a if. The idea is, as I said, we work in very sequential system where we make, the first necessary systems, and then we build on top of that with whatever is higher priority for the base functionality of the game, and then more complex stuff, etc., etc., etc. So we do this in order to kind of, how would I put this? Save ourselves from a situation where we will or might end up out of resources and we need to put something out. Depending on how Kickstarter does, if we get a lot of money from Kickstarter, we will obviously just go in full time. If we get enough money for the entirety of the development, we are likely... So, early access is a yes, but it's conditional. It's got an asterisk to it. If we get all the money that we need, whether through Kickstarter or through like a publisher deal or whatever, we will only open Kickstarter at the very tail end of development to basically stress test servers and do a bit more of a like general polish round with like a larger audience, etc. If, however, we do not have the money for all of it, depending on how things look, we will either look for a publishing deal, or if it's more beneficial for us, we will open Kickstarter earlier, and we will do so with a very limited build at first. Like, well, rather, we will put out a polished version of the things that we have playable, and then we will just continue building on that. We will, however, for the entirety of Kickstarter, for the entirety of early access, if we go that specific route, not have anything in terms of the campaign. It will come out when the full game is ready, because it's a lot of content, and we don't want you to be spoiled, like to have everything spoiled. Whether we will introduce the full extent of the content otherwise is to be determined, but let's just say it varies a lot. Yeah. Let me see. I can see. I think I'm trying some positive attention. The game already feels like this. Well, thanks, Blast. That really means a lot. That's exactly the sort of philosophy that I've been going into this thing with. That we've all been going into this thing with. But it's the sort of thing that has been driving me a lot. So, yeah. Let's look at something else. Maybe we'll see some munching. That works.
We have a question on YouTube. Are you able to give us a rough idea of the total amount of unique minions and heroes there are?
For the base game, I think it currently totals to definitely 16 minions, including like all factions, unless we include beasts, which is a very chopping block sort of thing, but we will see. Beasts are planned, but they're not direct minions, so like whatever. So 16 proper, intelligent, quote-unquote, in some cases, minions, and I think also 16 heroes by the last count I made, but it might be a few more than that. And then if we do well enough to have time to make expansions, we might add a few more. Yeah. Is there anything else here? Yeah, that definitely, yeah. Might say it as a beating black heart. God damn it, Nether. Yeah, is there anything else on Discord or anywhere else?
It seems to be about it for now.
He's level 5.
Now is a chance. Get your last minute questions in.
Yeah, because I suppose we're gonna wrap this up if there's.
Another asks his.
I know what he asked. I can see it.
We all know. We can all feel what has been asked.
Nether. Yes, exactly that. Why is the room guy? Fuck up. All right. Oh, there is, I think, a stream question here, or is that just early access or launch 1.0? Oh, that's. Yeah, that's. I kind of answered that already. My creator will be big. Okay. Well. I guess in that respect, that's going to pretty much conclude today's stream. It was fantastic talking to all of you guys and answering your questions and interacting with you much more directly. We really appreciate all of you coming out and supporting us in general. It just means so much, and we hope that, you know, what we're making resonates with you the way that it does with us, or any different way. I don't know. I don't know everybody, and the ways they might perceive things. But yeah, just
there's people asking how can they support.
Well, for now, we're mostly going for the Kickstarter, so that's one of the biggest things to keep in mind. However, what we've decided to do is, outside of like big company-wide events like this, we are all going to kind of do our own individual work streams. Like development streams. For example, I'm going to be doing some concept. Shut up, Rexy. Some concept art and seriously, what the fuck? Shut up. I'm going to be doing some concept art or texturing some models and stuff like that. So I can, you know, stream while I'm doing that. The 3D artist, Rebecca, she can. Zarin, as you know, her here, she can stream her work. Chris could stream while he's working on stuff, etc. It's like during those streams, we will have our own individual channels that will be hosted by this channel, this Twitch channel. So to our direct streams, you would be able to contribute to donate if you feel like the standard Twitch system. And that's kind of it for now. There's not a lot else planned.
There was a question about the different room types. If you want to go into it, or I don't know if it's too late already.
Let's answer that, and that'll be the last question for today. After that, we'll call it a day. Different room types. There are quite a few of them planned. I'm not going to go over every single one of them because spoilers. But they each perform different functions, and that means two things. Because of the way we do things, unlike Dungeon Keeper, we're not limited to one functionality per room. So, for example, the prison is going to fulfill both the role of a prison and a torture chamber. That allows us to basically have more unique rooms and thematically keep them like more compact, and you would be able to manage your space a little bit better. So you would be able to build, to assign cell spaces in your prison, and you will be then also able to, outside of those cell spaces, place torture equipment for various nefarious purposes. So here you have like your standard needs, sleep and food. With the food, like with the feast hall, there will be other things that come around as well, such as alcohol. There's the feast hall, which has various different props. The ability to train units is a little varied. Melee units can use these things to train up to level 5, and they do so at maximum speed. But different units, like there's melee units, there's ranged units, and there's spellcasters, and each has their own individual equipment that you will be able to research. While they can all train using the dummies, they will not train all to level 5, and they will do so inefficiently, so they will do so slower. If you give them their preferred props, they will do it up to level 5 and at regular pace. And then later we're going to have an arena prop planned, which will be able to train things from 1 to 10. That's I think the general thing in which general extent to which I want to answer this question right now to avoid spoilers. I think that's gonna be just about it. I think that's gonna wrap up the stream for today. So for the second time or third, I don't know how many times, I want to thank everyone for coming. It was great interacting with you all. It's just great to see you all here and to see wish lists coming in every day, and follows and members of our Discord and everything. It means more to us than you could possibly understand. Well, maybe not understand, but still.
You can't even conceive of it.
It is unfathomable. It is without fathom. Your support, as always, is just deeply appreciated by us. Thank you again. We hope that you love what we're doing, and we're going to continue interacting with you through other means, and we will see you again on other upcoming streams, because this is a thing that's going to be happening from now on. So okay, everybody, thank you, and good night, or good day, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you in the Discords.
All right.